All right, I want to welcome in our all-star political panel again this morning. We start with the host of Stacy. On the right, Stacy Washington. Political analyst Mark Halperin is with us. Constitutional Amir Benno is with us this morning as well. Mark, I know that you conducted a focus group asking Trump voters if they thought that Mitch McConnell was now a moderate. Take a listen. Well, we don't have the soundbite, but basically, oh, we do have it. Go ahead.
An example of somebody who's in the more moderate wing of the party that worries you?
I think Mitch McConnell.
Uh-huh.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Who thinks Mitch McConnell's a moderate? Raise your hand if you think Mitch McConnell's a moderate.
I think he's gone.
Pretty much all of you think he's a moderate. Raise your hand if you think Mitch McConnell's a conservative.
I think he just plays for the power. That's what I think. I think he just likes his seat.
Like about
He's been there.
other names I can mention.
All right, I like that panel right there, by the way. Mark, we'll start with you. Is Mitch McConnell still the face of the Republican Party? Now, today?
That sound you heard, Rob, is Kentucky Democrats gasping at the notion that Mitch McConnell is a moderate.
I agree
Mitch
with
McConnell, since January 6th, he has at times gone against the president. At times he seems to be going against Joe Biden. I think the panel is right that Mitch McConnell generally plays to maximize his power. And I urge people to watch this group of 8 Trump voters and what they said, not just about Mitch McConnell, but they're very strongly skeptical, to say the least, of Joe Biden, very strongly skeptical of Mitch McConnell. They miss Donald Trump already. And I think everyone who's still in Washington, not those in Palm Beach, but everyone who's still in Washington needs to figure out, how do you address the people like those 74 million whose voices are represented by that panel, who see things very differently than the way Washington is currently being cast.
Stacy, it's interesting. I'll ask you the same question. So, for my money, Donald Trump is the leader of this party until another Republican is elected to the Oval Office, whether that happens in 2024 or down the road. But Mitch McConnell, this is somebody that's still actively pursuing impeaching President Trump.
I have to say it's a huge mistake. And I'm not saying that from, Black Voices for Trump co-chair or anything like that. I'm just talking a middle of the country American. I'm a conservative. I voted for George Bush. I phone banked for him. So I had the true conversion experience where in my 20s, I was a rabid liberal. I was conservative on some things, but mostly a liberal. And now I'm a conservative all the way through and through. And when I see the behavior of Mitch McConnell, it reeks of a turncoat. He's not loyal. And that is something that I really cannot stomach. And it's not because I'm a perfect person. None of us are. But this is just an example of someone who literally just stuck their finger in the wind to find out which way the political winds are going, and then went with it and abandoned the president when he needed him most. And so I understand political expediency, but I don't understand Mitch McConnell. And I don't think I'm alone. I think I represent a huge chunk in saying I agree with you. President Donald Trump, who is now private citizen Donald Trump, is the leader of the Republican Party. And any person, Lincoln Project, Lennon Project, whatever they call themselves, never Trumpers, they don't understand the strengths of 10 million extra votes this time, 10 million more votes than last time. That means he converted people. He converted Democrats. He is the leader of our party. And no matter what you call that party, he's going to be the one directing the sentiments and the platform for next time from wherever he is. Palm Beach, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, I know the president watches Wake Up America. He is a fan of Newsmax. We always have an open invitation for the former president to call into the show. Amir, I think to say that I think Mitch McConnell is probably one of the least popular members, at least to the American public, of the Republican Party right now.
Well, and why shouldn't he be? I mean, he hasn't yet come out to denounce the impeachment. He says that he's keeping an open mind. He's telegraphing that he's on the fence, that he may vote to convict President Trump. Now, I understand senators have to swear an oath to impartial justice, but he is the leader of that conference, the Republican conference, and he was able to whip votes the last go-around with the impeachment in order to make sure that President Trump was not convicted in his impeachment trial, and he is taking deliberately the opposite position now. He's not doing that. He's telling the other members of the conference, the Republican conference, that this is a vote of conscience. And I think what Betsy McCoy had said earlier in this program is right, that perhaps he has brokered a deal as part of this power sharing with Chuck Schumer where he will agree to lambaste the president and perhaps even vote against him at a Senate trial in exchange for not surrendering the filibuster. And that would just give the minority at least that last ability to be heard and to stop the progressive agenda from going forward. But so he is interested in his own power, and he is a turncoat, to Stacy's point. But let's keep in mind as well that he did help push through a lot of conservative judges, which, you know, we can't be blind to the accomplishments that he helped President Trump get through during
history. He's a political creature. He's been there a long time. Mitch McConnell's not a young man himself. I mean, he's got to be at some point thinking about legacy here. He's always every bit a politician. Mark, do you expect Joe Biden to finally put an end to this impeachment fiasco, this drive-by House impeachment? Do you expect him to stop this from moving forward at some point soon?
I don't think so, Rob. I think you saw Nancy Pelosi yesterday basically say justice demands that the president have a Senate trial and be convicted. I think increasingly, though, from talking to folks on Capitol Hill, it's unlikely that he will be convicted. So I think the choice that Democrats might start to realize is between perhaps seeking a bipartisan, strong vote of censure against the president rather than going forward with this impeachment trial, which how will they feel if they damage Joe Biden's presidency, divide the country, make it harder for him to get his agenda through, and end up not convicting the president once again, just like what happened a year ago. So this seems like it's a runaway freight train that Joe Biden doesn't want to stop, can't stop. But I think there's still some cards left to turn here, maybe by the courts, maybe by Mitch McConnell, maybe even by the Democrats if they start to count the votes.
I got to be honest, my good friend Rachel Roller, who's sitting right next to me here, she told me that somebody said that they had heard Joe Biden is basically playing president. I've got a 4-year-old daughter, and she plays, you know, teacups and princess with all of her friends, you know, but they're little kids playing. Do you think Joe Biden is really in control in the Oval Office right now, or is he just somebody they needed to get elected to take back the Oval Office? Stacey, I'll turn the question to you.
So this is one that I hate that I'm saying this because I'm an American. I am a true blue patriotic American. But I don't think he's in charge, and it's not because of like any like secret messages or any of that weird stuff you see on some of these sites. It's because I just watch him when he's out, and they have to tell him which way to exit. Like when he's done speaking, he goes to get the folder, and then he seems disoriented. Like, where do I go?
Right.
He has to be directed. Jill has to come retrieve him off of the stage often. So I don't think he is. I think the most powerful person in America is Kamala Harris. She's the vice president, but she's also the president of the Senate. She'll be the deciding vote in a number of these hotly contested issues that are going to come before the Senate for votes. And besides that, she will be the one to take Joe Biden's place whenever they finally decide that they're done with him and, you know, his figurehead status has worn off. I don't think they're concerned about damaging his first few months of the agenda because they know they have control for 2 years. So they can use that entire 2 years to ram through whatever they want. And he'll sign executive orders all day as long as he's getting his shots. So this is a sad moment for us, but I'm a believer in dealing with the game as it's played.
Yeah.
You have to be a realist. You have to look at what's there and deal with that. And that's what we're dealing with.
Stacey, you know, by the way, there are Vegas odds on how long Joe Biden lasts in office. Does he, you know, last 4 years? Is he out in 18 months? That's something you can bet on right now. Mark, I want to ask you the same question. This is going to be a topic that comes up more and more because now Joe Biden is the man in charge. You know, you see his wife, Dr. Jill, you know, she, as Stacy just sort of intimated, you know, she kind of leads him around and makes sure that he knows where he's going. And we understand that he's a 78-year-old man. Both my grandfathers had Alzheimer's, and my grandmothers did not. They have since passed away. But it just reminds me of that. My grandmother would lead my grandfather around. He still had, you know, his integrity, and he was still a fun guy. But, you know, he needed that assistance sometimes. How do you think this plays out over the next several months in Washington, Mark?
I think we're going to go in the next month, Rob, because the White House yesterday sent signals that Joe Biden was about to get heavily involved in dealing with members of Congress, perhaps outside interest groups, to try to build support for his legislative agenda. So we're going to see. I mean, they'll still be able to protect him to some extent. But I think we're going to see Joe Biden is going to be talking directly to a lot of folks with his presidency, no exaggeration, on the line. He doesn't have a couple of years. History shows you need to do your big things in the first year and maybe a few months. So I think we're going to get a lot of data coming up. Not Joe Biden being able to hide during the pandemic, during the election, but as president, he'll be able to show people is the capacity he has to do this job full and complete and what it needs to be, or is it something less than that?
Yeah, we got to leave it there, but you're coming back after the break. You remember, none of us were alive for this, but the press covered for FDR. You know, he was in a wheelchair for his presidency, and the majority of the American public wasn't aware of that. It was a different time, but we'll see if something like that happens now. Panel, we will see you after the break. Thank you so much.